Do you want to play a game?
They're here.
Welcome to the first ever episode of Blood, Gore, and Ghouls. I am your host, Ian VanGhoul. We'll be talking every week about horror movie news, horror topics, trivia, questions, and anything else horror related that you guys would like to hear me talk about. A little about me. I am a Twitch affiliate. I stream every weekend. I try to stream Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. If I'm streaming video games, I'm usually playing Dead by Daylight. Once in a while, we'll mix it up, though, with other horror games or even a first-person shooter, like, Fortnite, Call of Duty, stuff like that. Also stream live music, where I play acoustic pop-punk songs on Twitch. And you can always find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Ian VanGhoul. Also have a horror account on TikTok, where I review horror movies. Try to do a horror movie a day. You can find me there at ian.vanghoul. And of course, be sure to join our Ghoul Squad Discord. You can request acoustic songs. You can add horror movie topics you'd like me to discuss on the podcast. Share pictures, memes, horror content. It's the best place to stay up to date on all stream and podcast news and schedules. Outside of that, find me on YouTube, where I upload my TikTok reviews, as well as I'll be uploading the video portion of this podcast. And last but not least, be sure to get your very own Ghoul Squad merch at ghoulsquadshop.com. All the links will be in the show notes. They're on all of my social media platforms. It's all under my link tree, so you can find everything you need in the link tree. So, what we'll do every week is kind of just briefly go over the past week's reviews on TikTok. So pretty much I'm not going to go in depth on it, just kind of cover them real quick, maybe add some things I forgot to put in the review, or things I feel about them now, but we'll rip through this quick. So first of all, we have Final Destination from 2000. I give it an 8 out of 10. Great cast, great acting. It was originally written as a episode for the X-Files, that they chose to not make it to an episode. They made it a full length, and I hadn't watched this in quite a while, so I was expecting it to be kind of outdated, probably not the best at this point, and I was really surprised because this movie still slaps. It was still just as enjoyable as I remember it being. Overall, really, really good. So from there, we have Chernobyl Diaries. Gave it a 5 out of 10. I always think this is a found footage movie, and it's not. It's just it's filmed with a handheld camera. Has a great concept, but ultimately fails, at least in my opinion. I think it could have been a lot darker, a lot creepier, but they just didn't quite go that route. So, not much more I can say about that one. Next, though, we have Haunting in Connecticut from 2009. I give it a 7 out of 10. It was better than I remember. This one, for me, I was annoyed with it to begin with before I even watched it, because the trailer played all the time. So any movie I rented, any movie I watched in the theater, or even at the time just like buying DVDs, there was trailers before the movie, and it always had this damn trailer in it, and it annoyed the hell out of me. So I was already annoyed with this movie before I even watched it. So when I finally watched it, I just wasn't into it. But watching it now, it's a pretty good movie. Kyle Gallner is the reason I mainly like the movie, because for some reason I just like him in everything. I think he's a good actor, and there's something about him I really like. But yeah, this movie's creepy, has some good atmosphere to it, some good scares. So overall, definitely recommend that one. Our next one is Horror in the High Desert 2, Minerva. This is a documentary style, so it was really cool, because if you didn't know any better, you'd think it was an actual documentary. It's filmed that way. So it was pretty cool overall. A little creepy. It's not too much horror. I think more kind of true crime, but a little bit of horror elements sprinkled in there. So it's a good watch. Check it out. Then we have Ticks from 1993. This one is ridiculous. I give it a 4 out of 10, but it's still a fun watch. It's a straight 90s horror comedy. Seth Green, Alfonso Ribeira, and Clint Howard. So Seth Green, Clint Howard, fine with that for sure. But Alfonso, I wasn't expecting him in this movie. So I know Alfonso from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, from being Carlton. That's literally the only thing. I know he hosted some game show somewhat recently. Other than that, though, that's all I know him from. So seeing him in this movie, like swearing and not acting like Carlton, was kind of a shock, but it was fun. It was a good time. So yeah, if you want something just kind of stupid, straight 90s horror comedy, definitely check out Ticks. Then from there, the following day, I watched The Purge: Anarchy. 8 out of 10. This is my favorite in the franchise. I love the masks. I love the action. It has some hardcore Punisher vibes to it. Frank Grillo, fantastic in it. And this was kind of before Marvel did their kind of newer Punisher stuff, their series and all that. So I was really hoping that Frank Grillo would be the Punisher in the Marvel universe. Obviously, he did not. He did not become that. He was cast as a different role in the Marvel universe, which I feel like they kind of gave him the short end of the stick, because it could have been something really cool and it wasn't. But yeah. So Purge: Anarchy, my favorite in the franchise. Check it out. Finally, the movie theater movie of the week is The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Checked it out, yesterday? Yes, yesterday morning. Give it a 7 out of 10. It was a great movie. Had some really beautiful set pieces. My complaints on it, I have 2 complaints. And one was that it felt really, really long. Now, it's a 2-hour movie, but it felt like it was at least 3 hours. And it's not that it was boring or that it like kind of drug on or anything, but I don't know. I can't explain it. It just felt really, really long. And my other complaint is the CGI in Dracula. So for the whole movie, everything looks good. The blood, the gore, the set pieces, everything looks really good. Dracula looks completely CGI, and it took me out of it because he's this big, gnarly, like old school looking vampire. So why they didn't do all practical effects kind of blows my mind. I'm really confused about that. But yeah, that was a bummer that he looked very CGI, and I was not down with that. But still a good movie. Definitely recommend checking it out, especially on a big screen. But yeah, like I said, 7 out of 10. Still a good watch overall. But that's the last 7 reviews for this past week. So yeah, every week we'll kind of just run down through those, just kind of touch on them a little bit, just like that. So moving on, we'll hit up some gaming news. Just a few things here. So if anyone listening or watching, of course, a lot of us play Dead by Daylight. And Nicolas Cage was released a few weeks ago. I've primarily only been playing as Nicolas Cage. It's fantastic. But the new chapter is going to be Alien. So it releases August 29th. We'll have a Xenomorph as the killer. We'll have Ripley as a survivor. Even Jonesy I saw in there, the little cat Jonesy, and a Nostromo map. So I watched a little bit of gameplay of this. It looks pretty gnarly. I'm pretty stoked about it. As a survivor main, though, I'm very worried about that Xenomorph tail, because that thing looked pretty gnarly and it was hitting people from pretty far away. So I'm hoping they kind of nerf that a little bit before it is fully released to us. But overall, I'm really excited. I love Alien, and I'm excited to go against that. In other news, unfortunately, on August 7th, we lost William Friedkin. Of course, the infamous director of The Exorcist. He did pass away August 7th. So RIP to him. Now I figured we touch on some upcoming horror movies. So this is what we've got for pretty much for the rest of the year to some degree. Now, not everything was announced or is showing, but we'll go over a few of these here. So upcoming August 30th is Slaughterhouse. Now I posted this trailer in Discord a little while ago, but this is essentially a killer sloth movie. And it looks ridiculous, and I'm hoping it's ridiculous in a good way. Well, that comes out August 30th. September 8th, we have The Nun 2, which the trailer looks really good. I'm not the biggest fan of the first movie, but I'm hoping that we get a kind of Annabelle syndrome in this one, where the first movie, not so great, but the second movie was really good. So I got my fingers crossed that The Nun 2 blows the first one out of the water. Then on there, September 15th, A Haunting in Venice, which I'm not sure if this is really going to be a horror movie. I've seen the trailer. It looks like a horror movie, but this is also in the world of what Inspector Poirot, I believe it is. So it's written and directed by Kenneth Branagh, something like that. I forget exactly how to say his name. But he plays Poirot. And if you've seen the first two movies, Murder on Orient Express and Death on the Nile, they're all kind of, I wouldn't say they're sequels, but they're all in the same universe. So this is kind of the third in that universe, but it goes kind of a horror route. So I think like a seance kind of haunting type deal. So I don't really know what to think of it. I probably won't be checking it out in theaters, but we'll see. We'll see what the buzz is once it comes out. From there, September 22nd, we have It Lives Inside. I'm blanking on what that one's about, but it looks really good. I remember it looks really good. So we'll have to get some more details for next week's podcast, and we'll get some more information on that. September 29th, Saw 10. What do you guys think about Saw 10? So I know I've talked about it on stream before, but I'm hoping it's good. I'm optimistic about it. I'm just worried that we're 10 movies in, and now we're getting a movie that takes place between Saw 1 and Saw 2. So I'm hoping that they had a really good story to tell, and that it's not just kind of cashing in on these characters that have this giant cult following at this point. So I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to see it regardless, and I'm here for the traps, So it'll be bloody, it'll be gory, and I'm sure we'll love it. So let's see. From there, we have Exorcist Believer. So I was going to touch on this when I said about William Friedkin, but I figured I'd save it for here. So Exorcist Believer is another one that I'm trying hard not to be stoked for. But I've seen the trailer 3 times now, twice on the big screen, and it looks really, really good. Now, it might just be the trailer, so I'm kind of going in knowing that the trailer could set it up to make it look really good, and then it's not. But I don't know. Once that Exorcist theme kicks in, it gives me chills, gives me the goosebumps. So I'm hoping that it's as good as it looks. But after the Halloween trilogy, I'm a little skeptical, and the fact that this one is also going to be a trilogy, I'm just not sure how I feel about that. If it was just a new movie, if we were just ignoring the rest of the Exorcist universe, which at this point, what does it matter? It's not very coherent to begin with. But it's just, if it's a sequel sequel to the first Exorcist movie, bypassing everything else, I'm all about it. But the fact that it's already set up as a trilogy worries me, because that's what we got. It's the exact same formula that we got with Halloween. And yeah, so I'm expecting a really good first movie, a really fun second movie, and a complete piece of shit third movie. That's what I'm expecting right now. But hopefully we get 3 solid movies, and it's all good. But this first one though looks really good, so I'm getting pretty excited about it. And finally, October 27th, Five Nights at Freddy's. So I'm excited about it. Now, I've never played the games, but I'm familiar with the universe. My daughter's all about it. She hasn't played the games either, but she's all about the characters and whatnot. So I'm excited to see the movie. Now, we've gotten like kind of 2 rip-offs of it already in the past like 10 years. So we had the Banana Splits movie, which, is a mixture of the actual Banana Split show, but also kind of delved into the Five Nights at Freddy world. And then we have Willy's Wonderland with Nicolas Cage. Now, Willy's Wonderland, fantastic. I love it. But I'm hoping that Five Nights at Freddy's is better than all of them. So I don't know. It's another one. I'll be a little skeptical going into it, but I'm hoping it is just a fun time. It is PG-13, so it won't be as gory and bloody as the other ones. But I'm hoping it's a good story, some good scares and whatnot. So we'll see. Well, that's what we've got listed as far as upcoming horror movies. Like I said, It Lives Inside. I'll have to look up the information on that one, and we'll get into that next week. So from there, we're gonna get into our kind of main topic for the night, and that is what's a non-horror movie or property that you'd love to see a horror version of. So I asked all the ghouls in Discord, sent out a Snapchat, asked a few friends, got some feedback. So I have a couple that I thought of, and then I'll go over what everyone has said. We'll talk about it, and then if anyone listening, join the Discord. If you have some that I don't talk about, please add them to the list. Put them in Discord, and we'll definitely touch on them at another episode. But yeah, so non-horror movies or properties that you'd love to see turn into horror movies. Example is like Pooh, Blood and Honey, which I thought was an awesome movie. The Mean One, which is the Grinch horror movie, which I have yet to see, but I'm hoping it's as ridiculous as it sounds. Of course, there's been horror versions of Cinderella, Snow White, Hansel and Gretel, different ones like that. But I want to see what other people have said. So my good friend Tiger is a huge Harry Potter fan. He said Hogwarts. Now, I don't know anything about the Potter universe. I've only watched the first movie. It was never something I got into. But I know enough about it that it could definitely be a fun time as a horror movie with wizards and magic and shit. So I wish I had more information or more knowledge on it to expand on it. But yeah, I mean, it's a big enough universe there. It could be a pretty cool horror film, horror franchise. My brother Matt, Jay and Silent Bob in a horror movie or horror universe, which I thought was really cool. A really good idea, because the closest we've gotten is a little cameo of them in Scream 3. So if we had like a full-on Jay and Silent Bob horror movie, like kind of horror comedy, like that'd be pretty rad. Thinking like kind of current, present day, like Abbott and Costello. Meet the Wolfman, meet Frankenstein. We have Jay and Silent Bob. So what do we think about that? That'd be kind of cool. He's also a huge Halo fan. That's another thing I don't really know much about. So he was saying it'd be cool to have a kind of horror movie set in the Halo world, which I've seen. I'm familiar with different creatures and things from Halo, so that would be pretty rad. Kind of like Doom. Although we don't have a good Doom movie. We have 2 Doom movies, and they're both pretty bad. But yeah, Halo horror. My secretary, Ghoulie Julie, said a legit Scooby-Doo, which I'm all about. So if we got like an actual adult, full-on horror movie of Scooby-Doo, how cool would that be? As well as Grim Fairy Tales. So there's quite a few kind of more low-budget horror adaptations of Grim Fairy Tales. But yeah, I agree. Like a lot of those were written more with a kind of horror style, so that'd be cool to get some more of those. Our friend Night Mouse, or in Discord, Loki a Mouse, she said Marvel movies, which this one's kind of a 50-50 for me, because I have loved horror movies forever. I've also been a huge fan of comic books for quite a while, and at this point I'm kind of sick of the whole comic book movie stuff, Marvel movies, DC movies, all that. But I've been waiting for a Marvel Zombies movie for 20 years now. So I think it would be cool if they eventually gave us a legit horror movie in the Marvel universe of Marvel Zombies. No, I heard somewhere that something was in the works. I don't know whether it is or not. But yeah, it would be cool to finally get a legit Marvel Zombies movie. As well as she said Wizard of Oz, which I think there is something in the works, or one coming out at some point, or has been in the works. There is some sort of horror Wizard of Oz something coming. But like a full-on Wizard of Oz adaptation, but a horror version of it would be pretty cool. She said Disney movies as well. Which some, yes. I can't think of any in particular. But I feel like a lot of Disney movies are based on other stories, which have some pretty dark undertones to begin with. So it should be fairly easy. And she said Twilight movies, which I don't agree with that one, because Twilight movies are just literally vampires that they made terrible. So it was already a horror movie that they just made into a terrible movie. But regardless, but I appreciate everyone that gave me their answers. Let's see. Tiger says Teletubbies. Yeah, like that picture online of like it's like a black and white, like creepy Teletubbies. That would be kind of dope. Barney, Rugrats, yes, absolutely Rugrats. My thoughts on it were Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I've been waiting for a legit, like straight up horror version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory forever now. Like obviously the original Gene Wilder one has the tunnel scene, which a lot of people were creeped out by. And I was really stoked when the Tim Burton one was announced, because I was like, oh, Tim Burton, it's going to be creepy, it's going to be dark. And then we got what we got. Not quite what I was expecting. So yeah, I want a full on, like, twisted ass Willy Wonka and some craziness inside that chocolate factory. Like maybe that's what's in the chocolate, right? Maybe it's some human elements in the chocolate, and that's why it's so popular. But he needs to bring in the people to get the human elements. So I feel like there's a really, really dark, horrific story there that needs to be told. And of course, there's the new Wonka that's coming out that looks like complete garbage. Sorry, not sorry. I saw the trailer for that, and it looks really bad. But regardless, my other answer then was Alice in Wonderland. Now we've got the game. We got the dark, scary Alice game years and years and years ago, and there was supposed to be an adaptation or a movie adaptation of that at some point, and then it never really came. So I'm kind of bummed about that, because that game was, like, visually was really creepy. So I don't know, maybe one day. But listeners, what would you like to see that's not a horror movie or a horror property be turned into a horror movie? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in Discord. Let me know wherever you're finding this at. But yeah, that was a lot quicker than I was expecting. But yeah, that's pretty much the podcast. So yeah, every week we're gonna make an episode. We'll have a topic, like a main topic to kind of go over and discuss. Hopefully at some point I'll get some visitors, get some guests on here to kind of talk back and forth with. But yeah, we're just starting out, so bear with me as we get it going. But I'm really excited to kind of talk about horror movies and get the word out there about Blood, Gore, and Ghouls, and of course our big group of Ghoul Squad. Phone-in guests, yeah. As soon as I can kind of get everything set up, then yeah, like a phone-in guest, absolutely, that would be awesome. But for now, that will do it for our first ever episode of Blood, Gore, and Ghouls. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to hang out with us. Be sure to follow on Twitch at Ian VanGhoul or twitch.tv/Ian VanGhoul. Join the Ghoul Squad Discord, subscribe on YouTube, and follow on TikTok at Ian.VanGhoul. Like I said, all links are posted in my link tree, and that link is on all my social media. So until next week, I've been your host, Ian VanGhoul. Have a ghoulish week, and stay safe out there.